Oh god. Hey, hi. Have you ever wanted to learn how to do this within Adobe Premiere Pro? Maybe you've wanted to learn how to put some text on the screen like this. Or maybe you just want to be very mellow. That's really peaceful, isn't it? You've now learned how to create a calm environment that might turn angry any second. You don't know if it can get angry, but it can get kind of happy, because then you remember your dog just came in the room and you're so happy he's here, but then he goes away and now we have nothing. As I snap my fingers, you too will learn how to become the best editor of all time. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel here today. I'm so very glad to see you back as we dive into a highly requested video. As most of you know, I've been editing videos for about 3 years now and full-time doing it for my job for about a year. It is a fantastic career field to get into. I know that for a lot of you who are clicking on this video today, you may have absolutely no knowledge of editing whatsoever. You might be just getting into it, or you might even want to enhance the skills that you already do know. I want to say right off at the beginning that I know a lot of things within editing, especially with programs like Adobe Premiere Pro, can seem kind of daunting at first, but trust me when I say it gets easier with time and practice. So does everything. That sounds like a very generic thing to say. Maybe I should give you some better advice. Stay in school. Well, I didn't do that either. Getting back to what I was saying, today I want to show you guys a very elementary overview of a lot of things within Adobe Premiere Pro. Yes, this tutorial is for Adobe Premiere Pro, but a lot of what I say is pretty universal for any of the other programs. Personally, as an editor, I've used Sony Vegas, Final Cut Pro. I've even used Windows Movie Maker at the very beginning of my career, but I find that Adobe Premiere Pro is the most adaptable and customizable. Feels like it's the most user-friendly, but this is all just my opinion. Everything I'm saying here today could pretty much be applied to all of those other editing softwares, but I wanted to give you guys a very easy to understand and comprehensive guide to kind of getting through your first steps of becoming an editor. And to make it as easy as possible to follow along, I've created 3 steps we'll be going through in this tutorial, and the 3 steps you guys will be learning from me today is number 1, getting set up and understanding your workspace. Shortly after that, we're going to be talking about cutting clips up and understanding flow. And to wrap it all up, we'll be talking about zooms and sound effects and all that stuff that brings the video to life. Right before we get into it, I want to say that if anything's confusing whatsoever, or you feel as if I didn't explain it to the best it could have been explained, please comment your questions down below, because I really am passionate about editing, and I want a lot of you guys to view editing in a very positive light. So do not hesitate to comment down below any questions you have. Rewatch this as many times as you want to. It gives me a lot of views on my YouTube channel. With all that being said, we are going to take our editor headphones and put them on your face just like this. And as you guys can see here, I am within Adobe Premiere Pro here with some previous projects I've worked on, and we are going to start out with a new empty project bin. To get started, I want to show you guys how to set up your Adobe Premiere Pro project and how to get your workspace kind of going, importing some things and ready to go on the timeline. You want to make sure Adobe Premiere Pro is open. If that's on your screen right now, you're doing it correctly. Congratulations. What we're going to want to do to start out before anything else is very simply now, stay with me. I know it's confusing. Hit new project. That means we're creating a completely blank workspace. And once we hit this button, it'll bring us to a panel with some more settings for the project before we get going. You can name it literally whatever you want. That's the most simplistic part, is just pick a name for your project, put it in the name bin, and you're good to go. Make sure you know where you're saving this file to. I send it to my pictures bin. So every time I hit Control S, which you should be doing a lot, like a lot, it'll save to that area in your project file. Right here, you can change what the render and playback settings are. I render everything through my GPU because I find it's more efficient that way. It may be different for you. Just use what's fastest for you. But now that's all set up, everything can pretty much stay the same as it is down here. Just go ahead and hit OK. And look at this. Ready? Here we go. We have a blank Adobe Premiere Pro project file, and you did it. You set it up all by yourself. High five. Good high five there. Well, wash your hands because Corona's going around. Just gonna do that real quick. I don't wanna, you know, you guys might have germs, you never know. Now that we're all clean and good to go, here's where we learn about workspaces. You may notice off the bat at the top of your screen, you have a lot of text that says stuff like assembly, editing, color, effects, audio, etc., etc. All of these different panels are just different workspaces preset by Adobe for your workspace. You can alter this and change what blocks you see in front of you by hitting the window button and adding them right here. So for example, if I wanted an effects controls panel, I just hit effects controls in the window panel, and then boom, it's over here. I get an effects control panel to the left. That's why I say Adobe is so great, because it is so customizable and you can move everything around to look exactly the way you want it to look. Like this, I can move the effects panel down here, and then that'll be there, and I can move some of these libraries over here to the right. It's fantastic. You can customize it any way you like. But personally, I know what I like and I know what I want in my work projects, so I've created 2 over here that I usually bounce between depending upon what I'm doing. And to create these workspaces, it's very easy to do. Once I figure out what I want in my panels, where I've got them where I want them to be, I can just right click over top of the section in which I'm in and hit save as new workspace. And so once you do that, you can create something and call it Dallas Work edit, or whatever you want to call it, and now it's up there with the rest of the text. And every time you switch from one all the way back to the other, it stays the same and reverts to how you had the settings before. Make sure you're creating your workspace to be curated to you and how you operate. Everyone is different again, and I've seen tons of editors have their things way all over the place, like I would never have it. But then again, I'm sure I'm doing things now ways other editors wouldn't dream of doing. But the most important thing you can have in your workspace is actually a project bin. What a project bin is just a little place for you to put all your eggs in one basket and have it to work with. And what I mean by that in normal people terms is you'll have all your footage and sound effects and everything in one place. So this right here is my project bin saying import media to start. Can't make a video without the media to do so. So what we're gonna do is take our mouse here and just double tap right over that project bin, and it brings us to an array of footage that we have on our computer because we never clean it out, and it's a big problem, and I'm losing all my data, it's space on there, and I'm freaking out. But it's fine, we're gonna organize it in the future, so don't worry. Find the footage you want to import, and personally for me, it's on an SD card, so I'm gonna go down here to my Canon, and I'm gonna import this footage right here that I pre-recorded prior to filming this part of the video. Now it's there in the bottom left section of our project bin, and we can start to work with it. We are almost done with the first step of becoming a great editor. Now that it's in the project bin, very simply, pick it up and move it to your timeline. And as you can see here, my hair looks great in the frame. I'm very focused for some reason. But now we've pretty much completed step number one. We got it all set up. We're in a workspace we're comfortable with. We have our footage moved to our timeline, and now we're ready to start phase two of cutting it up and understanding flow. So now that you know how to import things and move it to your timeline, basically you're going to repeat that same process over and over again for any sound effects or clip art or other footage you want to work with. So for instance, if I double tap here and then I go to my sound effects file within my computer and I click on a random one like this sound effect, it goes to the bottom of the project bin. Some editors like to create bins to put it all in and kind of organize, so I have like an audio bin or a footage bin. Personally, I'm very disorganized with my editing, so I like to have everything in here, and usually I have a long list of different sound effects and everything, and I search up by name in this little search bar what I specifically want. Again, play with it, figure out what you like. It literally doesn't matter as long as you get the job done. But for sake of this video, I'm not gonna sit here and import each sound effect and everything I already use. I have another project file with all of them already preloaded, so I'm gonna open that up and just continue from there, and it'll look a little something like this. There we go. That feels like home to me. So as you can see to the left, I'm very disorganized and have a lot of sound effects and everything preloaded to this project. I really love that one in particular. She's looking great today. But basically, I copy this project file from client to client to project because it has everything in one bin, and I'm good to go. Just take all my sound effects, everything in one place, and just slap them in where I need them. Here is the next step of our process. We're talking about cutting things up and flow. So if I were to let this video be posted just the way it is, it would start out a little like this. Yeah, go ahead and get those weights down so everybody's so entertained by you. But as you can see, I'm walking out of frame. I'm coming here and there. I'm getting the camera set up. It's awkward. No one likes that part. This is the internet and it's supposed to be perfect. Everything's perfect on the internet. So I want to cut that out. And cutting this out is going to start a process I like to call the rough cut. I go through and cut out all the silence, all the awkward parts, whatever part my hair looks bad, and I smush it all together in a very watchable and smooth flow timeline. So just to give you guys an idea of what that process looks like, it's very simplistic. We're just going to drag our cursor over to where the audio bar starts, and I make a lot of noise. And right here, I dove into my chair a little too hard, and I want to kind of like catch it at a good moment. So I wanted to start with a little bit of silence beforehand, so you just don't know I'm coming in the frame. I kind of spook the audience. So now that I know right where I want the clip to start, I have to have the right tools in order to get the video to start there. And what I mean by that is if you look over to the left here, I have a little panel for my tools I use. I have the selection tool, which lets me move things around. I have the razor tool here, which allows me to make little incisions all throughout the timeline. The selection tool and the razor tool are pretty much the only two things you need to get a rough cut done. So I've taken the razor tool and I'm ready to get rid of this useless piece of the footage. This pretty much is the excess fat you shed before bikini season. So we're gonna want to take that and boop, delete, it's gone. We look beautiful now. And I hate to do this, but I'm gonna sit here and let you guys watch the unedited version of me trying to figure out how to speak, even though I really don't know how to. So here it is before you make any cuts, and this is gonna be painful. Oh god, oh god, I went way too far than I wanted there. Oh my god. Okay, I feel pain. Hey, Hi. Oh, why did I let you watch that? Okay, so it's not enjoyable at this point because it's awkward. Like I'm taking moments where I'm like, what am I gonna say? I don't know what to say. I dropped out of college. I don't even know words. I want it to be a little bit more fast paced without all the questioning, without me kind of like trying to figure out what I'm saying. So I'm gonna cut this up to make it flow. Now, flow can be best described as making a project feel smooth. Flow can be interpreted in so many different ways, but it is something that you're gonna have to develop over time. My understanding of flow is better today than it was last week, and then it was 6 months ago, and it was 3 years ago. Understanding flow never really stops. That's the beauty of editing. It's an art form you continuously get better at. So if we become doctors and we start to do some surgery, we can kind of make this thing look a little better. So I'm actually gonna start it about here because I feel like that early silence is just a little too much, and I'm gonna kind of cut it right after I hit it and fall. Because you can see I'm about to fall, but the understanding of flow here is knowing that you don't know if I fall or not. I might have fallen, but I cut it out of the video. You'll never know, but as a viewer, that intrigues you. It's also loud. Loudness and something quick on the screen really grabs attention. The average person has an attention span of like 8 seconds or something like that, so getting their attention immediately in a YouTube video is crucial. This helps your watch time goes up. This helps people coming back to your channel because you're so entertaining and funny and fast. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start it right at my hey, because that's like, oh, he might have fallen, but he recovered, he's here, he's ready to go. So it's fine where that hey starts. I think right here when I clap, that's a great face. I really like that one. Can someone screenshot that and tweet me on Twitter? If you're watching the video to this point, please tweet me a picture of my face like that. I believe that's where I want the hey to start, so let's see how that sounds. So maybe like 1 frame over even. Let's see how that looks. Hey! Okay, that's perfect. Gotcha. So I clap like twice, I think. Hey! 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 So I want the heys to be right beside each other, like almost like I say them at the same time. And then, ready? Hey! So it stops like right there. Hey! 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 And sometimes with editing, you're literally gonna have to like slam your finger on the keyboard to kind of like get the exact moment. So like right there, and then the next hey is gonna come in right after the. So now I have those together, it sounds a little like this. Hey! Hey! So it's immediate, it gets attention, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grab attention of the audience because, you know, they're probably bored, everybody's home for Corona, and now you click on it, it's fast, gets their attention, and you're ready to go. So from the beginning, it looks a little like this. Now you can already see how it's changed since I've made these couple of adjustments. Oh God! Hey! Hey! See, it's like fast, it's quick moving, and that's what we want as an editor. That's my style personally. I know some people do it a little differently, but I like to be fast, I like to be quick with it, and so we're gonna roll with it. As you can see here, there's a lot of space in between my sentences, so just watch without the cut. Within Adobe Premiere Pro, maybe you've wanted to learn. Have you seen that, like the little, you don't ever see that in YouTube videos because no one wants that there. Nobody wants the breathing. Like, what's that about? You know, I wish I could never have to make cuts, but you have to. And to make it look better, we make an incision there. And then we make an incision there, and then we just drag those two together, and it looks a little something like this. Premiere Pro, maybe you've wanted to learn how to put, see, it's all one sentence. It's fantastic. So now that we have that there, and we've established you can have quick cuts, you can have slower cuts, you just want to make it all flow together very well. You guys understand now better how to kind of make things feel good within a rough cut. I'm gonna sit here and rinse and repeat this process until I have a nice flow for you to watch over, and I'm gonna time lapse it and see how long it takes me to do. It's not gonna take long at all because this clip is only like a minute long. Ready, set, and go. Here we go. Fast editor. We are professional. Okay, and time. Gotcha. So that took me 2 minutes and 59 seconds. Not long at all. Again, this is literally a 29-second clip. So it looks a little different now. With all the dead space and awkward moments, it flows. We still might take some things out in the final cut, but as of right now, our rough cut is pretty much done, and we're ready to move on to the last phase. So let's go ahead and watch it from the top, and this is what it looks like when all chopped up. Oh God. Hey, hey, hi. Have you ever wanted to learn how to do this within Adobe Premiere Pro? Maybe you've wanted to learn how to put some text on the screen like this. Or maybe you just want to be very mellow. Okay, so you can still see how a lot's missing. This is why we edit things in step number 3. Now that you've got done setting up your workspace and everything's the way you like it and imported and ready to go, you've cut it up and you have a better understanding of flow. Now we tie it all together with these sound effects and zoom ins and understanding of keyframes a little bit. I want to show you guys how to really bring this thing to life. Okay, to get started on step number 3, we have to introduce keyframes. So I think that keyframes can be best described as a command to the system to kind of start a motion and end a motion. All keyframes will be set in a panel called Effects Controls. So again, if you do not have this in your workspace, make sure you click on Window and add Effects Controls to your panels. Once you have it there, it should look a little something like that, and you can kind of alter the things that are happening over here with the control panel over to the left. That looks cool. Looks like I'm a DJ, huh? So now that you know what a keyframe is, we have to learn how to actually do it and tell Premiere to perform these keyframes. Keyframes can be used for a wide variety of different things and effects within Premiere, but in particular, we're talking about zoom ins. Within the effects control panel, you have the option to change the position and the scale of the footage you're working with. And right here in particular, I think it'd be pretty funny if I came into frame and I zoomed in right here, because again, it's getting the attention of the audience, letting them know like, wow, this is important, I should pay attention to it. So what I'm going to want to do to start a keyframe zoom is I'm going to want to find these stopwatches on the left side of my effects panel. These little stopwatches here tell Premiere, hey, everybody listen up, we're about to start work. Once you click on these and you have started a path for the zoom to happen. Now, all good things must come to an end, as you know, so we need to figure out how to end the path as well. So find where you want the zoom to kind of come to a halt and go to these little dots at the very end to end the keyframe. Now, once you've ended the keyframe, that's it. That's where production will halt. No keyframes will happen beyond this point unless you set new ones. So now that we have a start point and an end point, we need to figure out where we're going between these two. And honestly, I want to get in as close as possible. There are no limits to how close you guys will be to my face. So take your cursor and put it over the scale option and drag in as far as you want to go. And then you can mess with the X and Y axis at the top of the position, drag to where you find it to be acceptable. I think that's a pretty good place right there. Maybe even a little bit further in like that. And now you can see the motion that'll happen. So as soon as my little blue line here hits this first keyframe, that's where production starts. And as soon as it hits the second set, that is where everything stops. So if we watch it really quickly, it looks like that. It's like a quick little zoom in. You can see here literally nothing happens before we set the keyframe and nothing happens after. Oh god. So you can see the timing that I want isn't there yet, but the keyframe is set. That's how a zoom happens. And you can see that the further I get these two from each other, the longer it'll take for that action to be completed. Maybe the best analogy for this is how quickly Corona spreads when you're close to somebody. So practice social distancing and get far, and it'll happen a lot slower. So if we watch it from here and we spread them out, it's gonna take a longer time for the action to actually happen. So now if we watch it from the top, oh god, much different of an action. You can see the difference as I control Z here and watch it like I originally had it. Fast in comparison to slow. Just depends on where you position them. So it'll happen fast or slow or whatever. You can set as many keyframes as you want over a clip. You could go frame by frame by frame and hit the little stopwatch and end points over and over and over again. Whatever you want to do, it's customizable to your style. So understanding how the keyframes work is awesome, but we have to understand flow with it. Kind of going back to what I said before, understanding the moment and what needs to kind of come in and how it kind of goes over is really important to an audience. So it wouldn't make sense if I had this long drawn out keyframe as I'm going in like that. That's not what I feel like is going to be the best for this situation. I think what's going to be the best is a quick keyframe in as soon as I'm falling. And so I think I kind of wanted to start right here as I'm about to fall into the seat. So I drag the start point of my keyframes to right there. And then as soon as I kind of like jolt, that's where I want it to end. So you know that like we've zoomed in and we've hurt ourselves and we might die. And now that that's altered, it looks a little something like this. Oh god. Hey. See, I started to say, oh god, and then it cuts off, and that's funny, but what really ruined that moment is there's too much dead space at the beginning of my first hey. So now we can kind of drag to where it starts right about here, and it'll flow a lot better, I'm sure. So from here, ready? Let's see how it looks. Oh god. Hey, hi. Perfect. Exactly what we want. It's right in your face. It's to the point. Again, I know it may be a little confusing, and keyframes are a very big subject that I'll get into more maybe in future videos, but that's just a basic overview of how to do a fast one, a slow one. Play with it at your pace and understand that it takes time to develop the skill with it. We're getting through it very quickly, but I will say from here on out, there's only a couple more things to mention to you guys before we're pretty much done with this. So from here, now that it's kind of like zooming in like this, it's not just the keyframe I'm trying to display, but I want a funny effect to happen here. So maybe I'll go to my effects panel and type in something like twirl. There's plenty of preloaded effects that Adobe gives you with Premiere Pro. I personally have found a lot of my effects offline through things like Sapphire that I've purchased for myself as an editor because I do it full time, but know that you can get pretty far with the stuff that they give you to work with. There's a whole thing of presets and audio effects, etc, etc. But luckily for us, twirl happens to be one of the included ones. So we're going to want to drag the twirl effect over our clip here. And again, we're going to keyframe where we want the action to start and where we want it to stop. So from right here, the word this is where my face is gonna morph and kind of twirl and look ridiculous. As you can see, automatically there's no twirl done. My face looks perfect as usual. But if I drag this little thing up, it starts to twirl like this, and we love it, but we need it to kind of happen quickly, and it has to be set with keyframes. And I kind of have to play with the settings of it a little bit to be exactly the way I want to on my face. But let's go ahead and just start some keyframes on the angle, the twirl radius, the twirl center. You kind of go right about here. And just as I've started the keyframes, I also need to end them. So let's end it right about here. And this is where the action will bring us to. So I want my face to look a little something like that. Let's drag this down and move it up. That looks beautiful, just like that. Maybe a little over. Yeah, that's good like that. So as you can see now, this is what the clip looks like with the effect applied. Learn how to do this with it. So it's really quick and fast, but now my face looks ridiculous. And now all of my audience is laughing, probably. But that's how you do a twirl effect. And basically that goes for any effect you want to apply, whether it be twirl, if you want to spherize your face, if you want to bring the saturation down to kind of go black and white, whatever you want to do, it's very much the same process. Again, any questions, leave them down below. I'll try to get to them as I can. And in this next clip, I talk about putting some text on the screen. Right about here as my hand opens up. So I'm going to say the word text. I don't know. I'm not creative. I'm going to line it up to kind of fit in this box here. And then again, I'm going to take these keyframes and set them and be real small because I haven't said the word text yet. It doesn't exist. But as soon as I say the word text, it's going to pop up and I'll show you guys how. So as soon as I say the word text, it's going to pop into my hands like this. Text. So now is where we take our end keyframes, we set them, and we make it big because we want the text to be in our hand. And this is what it looks like after we set keyframes. Text. Now it's there. Now from here, we got to set frame by frame keyframes to kind of follow my hand to be visually pleasing. So now I'll just kind of like move over frame by frame as my hand moves. I'll kind of follow it and adjust it. Okay, there we go. Cool. So that's the end of that clip, and this is what it looks like when it follows my hand. Put some text on the screen like this. So very easy to do. You get it down pat, play with it again. So as you can see, every action we do is keyframed in, so it's very stimulating to the brain. Doing things like this will continuously keep your audience captured. This same thing applies to pictures I'm going to be putting in. If for some reason I wanted to take this picture right here and I wanted to keyframe it in, I just started at 0, then hit my space bar to where I wanted to go, and then it looks a little something like this. But with that being said, guys, we only have one more thing to talk about, and that's going to be the effect of music. Music and sound effects are arguably one of the most important parts of your editing process. I'm of the belief that anything that happens within the screen kind of calls for a sound effect, because without it, it'd be weird. If I were just to have text come on the screen, it'd just be like, it's just text. Who cares about just text? So what I'm going to do to make it better is I've taken a sound effect that I've imported. You guys learn how to do in step number 1. If you need to follow that again, go back to step number 1. I'm going to take this ding sound effect, and it looks a lot better with a ding. Trust me. Tell me it doesn't look better without a ding. Here we go. Some text on the screen like this. 10 times more satisfying to have a sound effect come in with it. Sound effects further enforce the idea that something important is happening. You need to listen. And that's why I think it's so important that when a big zoom in happens, a swish is needed. When a transition's going around, you need some kind of sound effect to bring you through the transition. And when things pop on the screen like text, a ding is good. Or an oof, or a wow, or whatever you want to use. Now, the last note to really touch on for all of this editing process here is the role that music plays in emotion within a project. So I spoke here for a moment, kind of changing my tone, saying things that are happy, then angry, then sad. And I want music to kind of enforce that idea of the emotion. When you watch movies that are sad, there's sad music in the background. When you play intense video games, the final boss music comes on as you're about to defeat the last person, whoever's standing in front of you between some virtual goal. You get the point. Music really presents emotion more than we understand. So I think it's important here that we add tracks that are needed. So let's find the moment in which I'm happy. Maybe you just want to be very mellow. That's really peaceful, isn't it? You've now learned how to create a... Okay, so I'm here talking about mellow, and I'm talking about being happy and peaceful. So I'm going to import some happy music here that's real peaceful and calm. I'm going to start it right about here where the track really starts. I'm going to turn the volume down just slightly so it's not too overbearing. I'm going to put it right over this mellow moment. And to bring it in easily, we're going to use a tool called constant gain, but I can't spell. There we go. Constant gain. And we're going to drag it up a little bit so it's a nice transition in. So check it out. Want to be very mellow. That's really peaceful, isn't it? You've now learned how to create a calm environment that might turn angry. Okay, so that doesn't fit. When I go angry, this doesn't work. Luckily, I have a track in here that sounds rather aggressive in my opinion. Let's find where I say angry. Environment that might turn angry. So right about here is where I want the clip to start. And I'm actually going to drag it out a little bit and do that same constant gain effect. and I'm gonna make it a little bit shorter so it kind of gains in quickly. But not only that, but I need this clip up top to end. So to get rid of that one, we do something called exponential fade. And this is what it looks like when I have those two in place. Now learn how to create a calm environment that might turn angry any second. You don't know if it can get angry, but then it can. And then that means something different, because you know what, I'm happy again. And now I gotta find a different track, and this is why I have 10,000 tracks on my computer and my files are running out of space. Pretty much all the music I use comes from this website called Epidemic Sound. It's like $10 a month or something, but it has thousands upon thousands of different tracks and sound effects. Very worth it as an editor. We basically covered everything here today of how to get things set up, how to import it all, put it in your timeline, make a rough cut, understand flow, do some keyframe zooms for some text, some sound effects, some clip art, understanding how music kind of works and everything. And now we're ready to kind of really go in and make this thing come to life. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna edit this thing in its full entirety. I'm gonna time it to see how long it takes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring out our timer again. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. All right. Everything's done here. I think we're all good to go. I am Thanos. That took about 30 minutes and 5 seconds. It took me a little bit longer because I really wasn't prepared for anything. I didn't have all the sound effects and music things I wanted. I had to go get some things off the internet and download them with my 4K video downloader, etc., editor things. So yeah, it took me a bit longer, and sometimes things take you a long time with an editing. It goes without saying, editing takes patience and it takes having a genuine love for the art form. But this is everything together, guys, in its full entirety. Yeah. If you want me to deconstruct this even further, let me know. I'll do it for future videos. And the very last step, which is the most satisfying of the entire process, is you're going to want to hit File and go all the way down here to Export. I usually have mine formatted to H.64, and then I set it to the YouTube 1080p Full HD preset. Make sure everything is good to go and hit Export. You're done. You can rest. You can go to bed as soon as it's finished. So that just about wraps it all up, guys. I am finished with my tutorial. This has been long awaited. Again, sorry it took me so long to kind of get this out. I think sometimes with editing, you kind of have your process and it's hard to explain how you do everything. So I've really been putting a lot of thought into how I can kind of convey it in an effective way. Let me know how I did. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. But yeah, that's pretty much everything here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all are staying positive. I know things are a little weird right now, but I encourage you to put a smile on that face. There are so many good days ahead of you, and hopefully this video brought you some joy today. So that's just about it for me today, guys. If you haven't already and you don't mind doing so, make sure you go ahead and drop a like vent. That's a subscribe, a like, and a comment. And my whole family is asleep right now, so I can't scream video, so I'll wait until the morning time, which is right about now. And I will see you in the next video!